So it did happen, right? That was an AEW pay-per-view with no Chris Jericho. Hello and welcome to FTTR. I am Hugh McQuaid, and today we are talking about AEW All Out 2024, a show that could potentially be divisive, but I've seen nothing but unanimous positivity for this show because, spoiler alert, All Out 2024 was an absolute goddamn banger of a show. It was goddamn fantastic from top to bottom. I had an absolute blast watching this show. I think it's one of AEW's best pay-per-view efforts of the year, and yeah, this was goddamn fantastic. But before we dive into all that, please subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts down below, and I'll try to apply to every single one of them as we dive into this. So All Out last year, I remember going up against the odds. It was in a rough spot. It was like a week after AEW All In, and they were in a rough spot, but they pulled out a cracking little show. It had a right banger of a main event with Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy. And they were in a similar predicament here, the only difference being I think there was a lot better build going into the show than there was last year. And I think that really paid off. I think the build for this show really paid off. We got some incredible matches, match of the year contenders, blood feuds, gore, violence. A lot of stuff, a lot of crazy stuff happening on this show. And I think it all worked. I don't think there was a single dud match on this show that you can point to, because even the matches that I wasn't particularly into, I still thought were fantastic. You know, like there's one match in particular I'm like, it wasn't fantastic, I wasn't fully locked in for that, but they delivered. They absolutely delivered, and I can't wait to get to talking about it, which we'll do right now as I jump into my full review where I talk about the matches, angles, everything that took place on the show, and give you my overall thoughts on each bit, starting with the opening match, which was MJF versus Daniel Garcia. This was so good. This was so unbelievably good. This match was built around targeting people's necks, and if you don't like that kind of thing, then maybe this isn't for you. But there are a lot of instances where MJF was going for the neck of Daniel Garcia because of the pile driver that he took, that took him out injured. You have MJF selling the effects of the Tiger Driver with the tape on his neck, and Daniel Garcia is going for that. Daniel Garcia does not want to just beat MJF. He wants to cripple MJF so that MJF can never work, never walk again. And that played into a really solid blood feud match. MJF got a lot of offense in early. He was working over Garcia. I think that was pretty much to be expected. And then Daniel Garcia starts making his comeback. He hits some cool, like Three Amigos-esque rolling neck breakers, which looked really, really cool. You had a big spot where they tumbled to the floor from a suplex outside the ring. And then he just really kicked up a gear. You had Daniel Garcia slapping the piss out of MJF. You had a guillotine choke. You had pile driver attempts. The guillotine choke in particular played well into the finish because Daniel Garcia hooks in a guillotine. It looks like MJF's arm's going to drop because he's passed out, but Daniel Garcia locks that arm in to stop it falling. I thought that was a really cool, really interesting spot. And then you have the finish. You have Daniel Garcia wanting to hit the pile driver, the second rope pile driver that MJF did to him. And MJF, sneaky as he is, he pulls Bryce Remsburg in the way. He low blows Daniel Garcia and gets a quick, sneaky roll up on Garcia for the 1-2-3. I liked that finish. I can see why people didn't necessarily like it. I feel like Daniel Garcia probably needed the win a little bit more, particularly with the angle that came after. So the angle that came after was Daniel Garcia basically, MJF goes to shake his hand, goes to low blow him again. Daniel Garcia kicks him, low blows, hits Tombstone. I feel like that could have been the finish to the match. I don't think it necessarily hurt MJF to lose, unless MJF probably going into a big program following this Garcia feud. And yeah, I thought it was a really effective match. Not the most effective angle afterwards, because I feel like Daniel Garcia just winning with the pile driver off the second rope would have been really, really nice. If not, maybe a little bit too similar to the Will Ospreay match. But yeah, this was such a good wrestling match that will be overshadowed by a lot of the other matches on this show. Then we had the Young Bucks taking on the Blackpool Combat Club for the tag team titles. This was announced a little bit out of nowhere, following sort of Claudio's feud with Okada. They were sort of beefing with the Elite. And this was really, really good. I love the Young Bucks. I love the Young Bucks so much. I love the way they work. I love their style, the way they interact with the crowd. It really works for me. And when you pair that up with Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli, you get a really exciting match. You get Claudio hitting multiple European uppercuts. You had a really cool counter where Matt Jackson does like a flip. He does a sliced bread off Claudio, and Claudio just catches him with an uppercut. I thought that looked really, really cool. You had the Young Bucks, being dastardly bastards. They hit the EVP trigger on Claudio for a really good near fall. Wheeler Yuta broke that up. And then you had a few hope spots here and there, but ultimately the Young Bucks came out on top because I think we all knew they were probably building to the Grizzled Young Vets match. This was not the best match on the show, by any stretch, but I think this was so effective. Played into what happened later as well. I thought this was really, really good. Solid tag team action with the right winner. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this. Bloody hell. Then we got Will Ospreay versus Pac for the AEW International Championship. This was better than you expected it to be. I don't know how that's physically possible when you have Pac and Will Ospreay in the same ring, but this was insanity. Absolutely insanity. They went from 100 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour. They didn't go 0 to 100. They skipped that, went straight to 100 and then to 200. The match literally started with both men trying to outdo each other, doing handsprings, doing kip-ups, and then hitting top rope black arrows one after the other. And that was in the first 2 minutes of the match, and then you immediately get a "This is awesome" chant, which makes sense because this was awesome. And they just escalated from there. The counters for this, the counters that Pac did into Hurricane Ranas cannot be overstated how sick they were. He countered a Storm Driver, I believe a Tiger Driver as well, into these flipping just Hurricane Ranas where Ospreay crashes into the mat. It looks so sick. You had Oscar on the apron. You had a huge top rope Frankensteiner from Pac to Ospreay. Ospreay flips out of it, hits a hidden blade for an insane near fall. And then you have the closing sequence where Will Ospreay just gets all the momentum going. He hits the Oscar, he hits a hidden blade. I have no words. I have absolutely no words for this match because this match was goddamn fantastic. Probably my match of the night. I loved it. I thought this was one of the best matches of the year. Pac is incredible. I can't wait to see what Pac does coming soon. This is a match you need to go out of your way to see because it will be in best match of the year contention and everyone will be talking about it. This match was chef's kiss perfection. And then we got I'll talk about this backstage segment with Ricochet and Will Ospreay teasing that match that we're going to get Ricochet and Ospreay. And if that's anything like that Best of the Super Juniors match, then God, we're in for a treat. This International Championship division is absolutely stacked and I can't wait to see where we go from here. Then we got another banger, which was Chris Statlander versus Willow in a Chicago street fight, which had AEW's women's division can do deathmatch wrestling better than nearly anyone else on the planet, especially Willow. Willow is absolutely goddamn fantastic in these matches. She is just so lovable, and when she triggers that rage, the anger, you feel it. You feel everything that Willow does, and I think she connects with the crowd that way. This match was it was insanity. You had a sick brawl up the ramp, leading to Stokely Hathaway bringing out some weapons. He brings out this trash can full of weapons, and I didn't realise what Willow had, but she clocks Chris Statlander with this light tube, this set of 3 light tubes. A shatter everywhere. Gets an insane pop from the crowd. Statlander then spears Willow off the stage. I'm like, oh my God, this is where we're going with this. Then they get into the ring. Thumbtacks. You have Chris Statlander going for like an axe kick and ended up doing a splits on the thumbtacks, which was fucking horrific. I was like, oh my God. Then you had a Death Valley driver into the tacks. You had Chris getting, like, they weren't dog collars, they were like wrist straps chained together. I don't know how else to describe it, but with a chain rather than a strap. And that ultimately played into the finish when Chris Statlander locked in like it was almost like a crossface, locked in a crossface on Willow, put the chain in her mouth, yanked it back, and that caused Willow to tap. I think that's the right decision. I think Chris Statlander has so much mileage currently. Like, she's on such a great trajectory. I think the pairing with Stokely is really, really good. I really like Every Night is Saturday Night. I think that's really cool. And Willow can always bounce back. You know, she's so great, is Willow. Like, she's really, really great. And I can't wait to see like where this goes from here. I think this is going to be an all-timer feud. I think this is going to play out for a long time. These two are sort of destined to do it together forever, almost like Swerve and Page in the main event. I think this was really, really good. Next up, we had the fatal 4-way match for the Continental Championship as Kazuchika Okada defended it against Konosuke Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, and Orange Cassidy. This match was really, really good. I don't think it wasn't amazing. You know, it was following some 2 incredibly hot matches, but it was really, really good. I feel like this match really tapped into, okay, that's Okada. I feel like I'm seeing Okada again, like Best Bout Machine, like main event in Wrestle Kingdom Okada. I thought he was so good in this. He balanced playing the goofy heel with being incredibly credible, particularly the stare downs between Takeshita and Okada. They were what we were here for. You had it teased, you had a few interactions, but you never got the full amount of it, and that was what we were here for. We were here for the Takeshita Okada interactions because that match is going to be fantastic. The conglomeration, Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy, had some fun spots. Orange Cassidy had some really cool like comeback sequences, getting in the head of Takeshita, putting his hands in his pockets and everything like that. It was a pretty standard 4-way. It really got good sort of by the end, like really, really good, where Okada was just going for rainmakers on everyone, pretty much, and eventually he hit a rainmaker and he pinned Orange Cassidy, which, fair enough. I think the Orange Cassidy slow descent into darkness can probably continue. He's lost again. We can see where that goes from here. And we still have the Takeshita Okada match down the line, which I imagine would be a really good match for the Continental Classic. That's a great finals match. Maybe they win each block. I think that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was a really, really solid fatal 4-way match. Then we got Hikaru Shida looking to take the TBS Championship from Mercedes Moné. This was really good. Like, they have really great chemistry, these two. However, I think this merely suffered from a little bit of fatigue. You've had a lot of very high octane, fast-paced matches before this, and I think the crowd was just a little bit burnt out for this one. Myself, I was like, okay, I feel a little bit burnt out for this. Unfortunately, it was sort of in the same Britt Baker slot that the other one was in at Wembley, sort of in between main events. And yeah, well, it wasn't in between main events. You know what I mean. It was following a lot of stuff, a lot of really amazing stuff. It was really good. I love seeing Shida on pay-per-view. I think she was really, really great. There had some really great sequences. You had Shida hitting a Falcon Arrow, had really good near falls and stuff like that. But I never once thought that Shida was going to win. I thought this was always Mercedes like to lose. There's no way she's losing this. Like, it's written in the stars pretty much. And she did win. She won this match. It was fun. I'll say that. It was fun, but it wasn't the amazing match that maybe I was hoping for. I'm really waiting. Well, I say I'm waiting. Mercedes has had amazing matches on pay-per-view. The Stephanie Vaquer match and the Willow match I really, really loved. I want her to have like those really banging matches again, and I feel like she's not been placed right on the card. I feel like this should probably have been earlier in the night and maybe had the 4-way lead into the main event. But yeah, overall, I think this was good. This was really solid stuff, but I don't think it excelled anything above like a Dynamite main event, unfortunately. Then we had the semi-main event, which was Bryan Danielson defending the AEW World Championship against Jack Perry. This was really good. Like, it's a Bryan Danielson match, of course it's going to be really good. I never once thought that Jack Perry was going to win, but Jack Perry's there for the heat. He got amazing heat in this match. I think he's really, really underrated, sort of what he brings to the table. I do think he's a really good wrestler. He was constantly going after the legs of Danielson, locking in leg submissions. And I thought that was a really nice way to do it, because you're going to get the big plunder-filled match at the end. This was pure graps, basically. And a really dastardly heel in Jack Perry, who putting his middle finger up and doing the yes chant may have been one of my favourite spots of the evening. I thought that was exceptional. And then you get the ref bump. You get the Young Bucks coming down. You get them teasing, hitting the EVP trigger. They're chased off by the Blackpool Combat Club. And then you have just Perry and Danielson in the ring. And Danielson hits probably the best Busaiku knee I think I've ever seen, because Jack Perry just goes flying. He goes absolutely flying to the other side of the ring. And that was mental. That was really, really cool. And yeah, Danielson picks up the win. I think that was all expected. It was like a really, really fun match. Again, I'd probably say it didn't go above a really exceptional Dynamite main event. And that's not a bad thing. That's really not a bad thing, because Dynamite main events are like some of the best wrestling you'll see. But this was about the angle afterwards. The patriarchy come down. Christian Cage is going. Looks like he's going to cash in his Casino Gauntlet opportunity. But Jon Moxley steps in the way, blocks him off. Down come the Blackpool Combat Club and Pac, who I presume is now in the group. I don't think that he's been like initiated or anything like that. And they sort of run off the patriarchy. They celebrate with Danielson in the ring. Moxley hugs him, gives him a kiss on the forehead. Uppercut from Claudio. And Danielson's selling for this. He's like, I'm not even hurt. I'm just in pure shock. Like, pure shock. Why have you done this, Claudio? And then Mox gets a plastic bag and attempts to murder Bryan Danielson on live television. He leaves it on for a long old time, suffocating him. Wheeler Yuta is being held back by Pac, crying, like just weeping, like, why are we doing this to him? And then Marina Shafir comes down. You have the BCC, the new BCC, leave, and Wheeler Yuta assists Bryan Danielson to the back, who's got like the mask on. I don't know what they're called, the oxygen masks, to try and sort of resuscitate him. This was a killer angle. This was such an insane killer angle. And that promo on Dynamite from Mox, it's going to sort of hit differently. It's going to be really, really interesting to see where we go from here, because I thought this was an exceptional angle, a really good match, incredible angle. And then we had the main event, lights out, steel cage match, unsanctioned, Hangman Page versus Swerve Strickland. I will say this right away, this was not their best encounter. I will say that. I truly believe that this was not the best match that they've had. I think the Texas Death Match is better than this. However, in terms of what this set out to achieve, the unadulterated brutality and violence that these two are inflicting upon one another, it achieved that. Like, this was supposed to say, this was a story of revenge, two people who want revenge on one another and what they are willing to do to get revenge. And that is what happened. We saw the lengths that they would go to. We saw staples. We saw, goddamn, we'll get to the end, but we saw syringes. We saw cinder blocks. We saw chairs. We saw barbed wire. This is the depths that two people who hate each other are willing to go to. And I think for setting that, for doing that tone, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfection. You had some incredible moments, like Swerve hitting the stomp through the table. I thought looked beautiful. The gnarly spots. You had the vertebraker from Swerve on the cinder block, which grazed all of Hangman's back. He was just pissing blood. And then the powerbomb Swerve onto the cinder block. The way his back went, I was like, that hurts. Like, there's no way of doing that. The way Swerve just dropped the cinder block and you saw it thud, like, oh, okay, that's not gimmicked. That is a real, that looks like a real cinder block. I'm 99% sure it was a real cinder block, and that looked like it killed. Then you had the closing sequences of Swerve's just not giving up. Swerve is laughing at everything that Hangman's doing. He gives him the middle finger. Swerve goes into his bag, pulls out a syringe, takes out the grill of Swerve, puts the syringe in his mouth, and it looked disgusting. It looked horrible. Like, I don't mind. I'm fine with needles. I'm not one of the sort of people who have a phobia of needles or anything. I'm fine getting injections and stuff like that. But the way it was angled and the way you saw it, like, pretty much go in, I was like, ugh, that doesn't look nice. That doesn't look nice at all. And then Swerve gets cracked in the head with a chair from Hangman, and the ref calls it off. Hangman Page wins, and he leaves. He goes up the ramp, and he sort of takes a few steps forward as if he's going to inflict more pain on Swerve, and then he just screams in madness, and Hangman has descended to the darkness. We have bad Hangman completely. I loved this. Whilst I didn't think it was as good as the Texas Death Match, it was absolutely everything I wanted it to be. An insane grudge match, an insane... I don't even think this is the end of the feud. I imagine they will have more matches down the line. An insane part of this saga, of Hangman's saga in AEW and his saga with Swerve. And it capped off what was one of the best shows of 2024. All Out 2024 was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I think if I did have to grade it, I think I am going to go 5 out of 5 on this. I was debating whether to go 4.5, but you know what? In terms of angles and match quality, it's 5 out of 5. All Out is a 5 out of 5 show. Maybe my favourite of the year. It's up there with, like, Revolution, I think, as the best show of the year. This was absolutely sensational stuff, and I cannot wait to tune into Dynamite on Wednesday. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Were you a fan? Were you not? Let me know and I'll try and apply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.